If I hadn't watched a single game in the first week of the 2025 regular season and you would have told me that the Atlanta Braves were off to a historic start, I would have believed you. I would have thought they spent all offseason stewing over their playoff loss to the Padres, knowing that they would be in the exact same stadium to kick off the start of the year. I would have thought they were preparing to get their revenge from the soft whimper they made upon their exit in the 2024 regular season and playoffs. Because 2024 was a bit of a down year for the Braves overall, at least with what everyone thought they were capable of. And it's pretty understandable to think that the Braves were going to be more competitive from an offensive standpoint, especially after they tied the all-time home run record by a team in a single season with 307 homers in 2023. And the next highest home run total in 2023 was 249 by the Dodgers. And many of the same players were returning in 2024. However, it seemed like everyone had a career year at the plate in 2023 for the Braves, so it was going to be really difficult to top that year or even reach that same level. So it's understandable to expect a little bit of regression. But even with some regression of those numbers, that would still make them one of the best offensive teams in baseball, if not the best. However, in 2024, things did not go well for the Braves at all offensively. They lost Ronald Acuna Jr. 2 months into the season due to a torn ACL. Matt Olson hit 29 homers, which is not bad, but that's still 25 less than he hit the year before. Ozzie Albies missed a lot of that year with injury. Same thing with Austin Riley, Michael Harris, Sean Murphy, etc. And on top of that, when they were on the field, they looked like a shell of what they were the year before. The only reliable guy that played for the full season in 2024 was Marcell Ozuna. He was a big part of why the Braves were still a playoff team. But even with the acquisition of old friend Jorge Soler, it wasn't enough to keep the offensive struggles away. Their offensive F4 as a team went from number 1 in the league by a very large margin in 2023 all the way down to 18th as a team in 2024. Their pitching, however, is really what kept them a threat in the National League, despite missing Spencer Strider for almost the entire year. With Chris Sale winning the Cy Young, the resurgence of Reynaldo Lopez as a starting pitcher, and the emergence of rookie Spencer Schwellenbach, the Braves were still a good team overall, but it still took them to a doubleheader on the final day of the season for them to get into the playoffs. And the first game may have been the game of the year, with all the late inning back and forth theatrics. Looked like the Braves would successfully complete a late inning comeback in the first game, but Francisco Lindor had other ideas. So it would take them winning the last game of the year to make the playoffs, which they did, but unfortunately they would have to fly to San Diego immediately afterwards to have the first game of the wildcard series the very next day. And they just played a doubleheader. There was very little hope that the Braves would make any noise against the Padres, and that was a correct assumption as they got swept in 2 games. But in what could have made for a great story to kick off the 2025 season, the Braves would begin the year exactly where they left off in San Diego. And what a better way to get over the loss of the playoffs in the previous year than to just announce your presence with authority against the same team to kick off the season. And after so many things going wrong for the Braves offensively in 2024, it would only make sense that things would start off differently for them in 2025. And once again, if you would have told me that the Braves got off to a historic start in 2025, I would have thought, of course they did. They had so many bad things happen last year that they would have had to have answered back in a very big way. Oh, they've answered in a very big way, all right. Just not in the way a lot of people thought they would. Opening day looked pretty promising for them. They were up 4-3 against the Padres going into the 7th, with both Austin Riley and Ozzie Albies hitting opening day homers. But new reliever Hector Neris would give up 3 runs and get no outs, and they would go on to lose 7-4. They would still put up a fight in game 2 of the series though, going into the 8th inning tied, but Dylan Lee would give up a late homer to Jake Cronenworth, and the Padres would go on to win game 2. Then the next day they would get shut out, recording only 5 hits, 4 against the Padres' Randy Vasquez, ruining 6 innings of 1-hit ball from Spencer Schwellenbach. Things couldn't get much worse for the Braves to start the season right now, right? Well, you'd be wrong. Jurickson Profar, who's their big free agent acquisition that they signed to a 3-year deal, got popped for PEDs and is suspended for 80 games. He was found to be using HCG, which was the same substance Manny Ramirez got popped for. So things just go from bad to worse for that offense who was already struggling in the first 3 games of the season. And just to make things even worse, Reynaldo Lopez will also be missing some time after getting arthroscopic shoulder surgery. And for a team who has been struggling so bad offensively dating back to last year, they need all the pitching they can get, and Reynaldo Lopez was a big part of their success last year, posting an ERA of 1.99. So already 2 major blows to this roster that didn't do a whole lot of bolstering this offseason. They would then go on to get 1 hit in the final game of the series against the Padres' Nick Pivetta. So a very miserable series against the Padres offensively. Hopefully they will play a weaker opponent in the next series. Who's next on the schedule? Oh, just the Dodgers. Just the undefeated Dodgers. Just the Dodgers who won the World Series last year. So the Braves' struggling offense would have to go up against Tyler Glasnow, Dustin May, and reigning Cy Cy Young winner Blake Snell. Glasnow looked absolutely filthy in Game 1 where the Dodgers would win 6-1. Dustin May got his first start in 2 years after a long road of recovery with multiple injuries, in which is deserving of a video of its own, and he looked incredible as the Dodgers limited the Braves to 1 run, only allowing 3 hits. And the final game of the series looked like it was going the Braves' way for a bit. The Braves put up 5 runs in the first 2 innings, although none of them were earned, but after scoring only 9 runs total in their first 6 games, they would take anything. However, the Dodgers tied the game in the 8th, and what could be more iconic than giving up a walk-off home run to Shohei Ohtani to start the season 0-7? Well, that's exactly what happened. So the Braves will be the last team to get their first win this season. This has been the worst start the Braves have had as a team to open up a year since 2016, where they went 0-9, and that roster looked way worse than it does in 2025. But it wasn't just the worst record-wise. They had never put up less than 10 runs through the first 6 games in any season, before this year where they put up only 9 runs in the first 6 games. And I know it's early, but this offense has put up some troubling numbers. The Braves are dead last in offensive WAR with -1.2. The next worst team is the Pittsburgh Pirates with a -0.7. They are 29th in WRC plus with 43, just edging out the Colorado Rockies. They only have more home runs than the Rays, Rockies, and surprisingly the Houston Astros. They also have the lowest batting average as a team with 151, and they have the second lowest slugging percentage with 234, only ahead of the Houston Astros. But their biggest issue has definitely been hitting with runners in scoring position, which they've only been hitting 122. They were 1 for their first 34 with runners in scoring position. It's hard to win games when you're not hitting with runners in scoring position. And if you want to score without runners in scoring position, you better be hitting the long ball. And they only have 4 of them, 2 in their last 6 games. So it's been really tough for the Braves thus far, obviously. And when Chris Sale was asked about how the team was doing, he came out and said, yeah, it's obviously bad, in which everyone would agree with him. He also said that the good news is that you look around the locker room and you see who is there. Then you have to think it's only a matter of time, right? And in a sense, I would absolutely agree with him. You see a guy like Matt Olson who has 40 homer potential in any given season with the outside chance of a 50 homer season like he had in 2023. You see Austin Riley, who has been one of the best third basemen in baseball outside of last year. You got Ozzie Albies, who's been great when healthy. Michael Harris has the potential to be one of the better center fielders in baseball. Sean Murphy has been great defensively and can be one of the best catchers in baseball when he's not hurt, which has unfortunately been most of his tenure as a Brave. And obviously you have Ronald Acuna Jr. coming back at some point. So with guys like this in the lineup, you gotta think they have to start hitting at some point. Something's gotta give. The good news is that right now they have the lowest batting average on balls in play in baseball right now with 199. So that is bound to come up. They are also getting on base 100 points higher than their average right now, which is still a very low number, but relative to their batting average, it's a good sign. Chris Sale also went on to say that luckily at this point of the season, they have time, but every game matters. You may have time, but the fact is that no team has ever started the season 0-7 and still made the playoffs. So if you want to do that, you have to start right now. However, all things considered, if I was to choose a roster that started 0-7 to make the playoffs, it would be this one. They always play horribly out west, and the Padres and Dodgers are great teams, but 0-7 is still 0-7, and they have still unfortunately dug themselves into a very deep hole to begin the year. And we'll see if they can turn it around soon. They absolutely need to.